Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and how everybody's doing. Welcome to another session of The African Speaks. Welcome to another session of The African Speaks. Now, for those who are watching on social media, Facebook, if you go to the African Speaks group page or the public page and you put your comments in the African Speaks public page, we'll be able to post those online. For those who are watching on YouTube, if you go to the YouTube page and put your comments on the YouTube page, we'll be able to post your comments online. Whatever you have to say, please join in on the conversation. Today's conversation is an extension of what the brother Kalonji preached this past Sunday. And it is on the power of emotions. The power of emotions. And the last time we was up in here, we dropped that in the bucket and we let it marinate in the waters and they ripple through and so the powers of emotions, and he was talking about using emotions as a guide to going towards your best self, a guide towards finding your best self. So and he was like, brother, there was so much more for me to say, and I just wanna just speak about it. I wanna expound on the concept and thoughts of emotions, and that's important as Africans, knowing who we are and whose we are and what we're trying to do. Every step is trying to access our best self so we can finish the job that we're on. So let me bring on my good brother, my man Mamelo. There he is. How's it going, black man?
Peace and blessings, Black Nation. I am glad to be black and back on the
Well,
African Speaks, brother.
good to
Yes,
have
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you. So before we start, uh, tell us about that sermon that
Man,
inspires
well,
you.
we had a powerful entire worship celebration this past Sunday on the Shrine's live stream. We were having tribute to Malcolm X Sunday, so we definitely had to venerate our ancestors like nobody else does. And the entire broadcast was fire. But the sermon, it was great sermon. We talked about the chronology of a best self transformation and
Mm.
the chronicles that are involved in you evolving, growing, maturing to new levels of consciousness and the associated actions that come with new levels of consciousness, and how to literally move to another level of consciousness with just utilizing the God's greatest gift to man is your emotional system, the very
Mm.
thing that gives you animation, the very thing that allows you to feel your experience is
Mm.
the emotions that has been engineered into your entire existence. And so a lot of people don't know that our ancestors on the most ancient continent on the face of this earth, the mother of all continents,
Come
the
on.
motherland,
Well,
they learned that emotions was the trigger into you learning how to consciously move to being a new person. And so we definitely dug into that this past Sunday. It was powerful, it was explosive. And I think, man, I just ran out of time. I hate having to talk to a dead camera. You see what I'm saying? I want somebody to
well,
dialogue.
let,
Yeah.
let me see if I could change that. After I add this to you to see if I can help with that part, I want you to introduce your friend because he's off camera right now, and I'm hoping he can hear us. So because we about to, there he go. Okay, so because we're about to bring him on, but now in technology we have those dashes and circles, right? It's those
Right.
dots and dashes. That's that the energy. It's still energy. It's frequency going in dots and circles and it's moving. So even though the animate object may be dead, the energy in which we use in terms of the internet, that interweb, that interconnection, that energy is live. Okay, so
Yes.
if any times you have a problem talking to a dead camera, just whoop and imagine yourself as just pure energy. I'm a dot in a circle right now. All
Right. I got you. I got you. That's good advice. Very
right,
good advice.
so go ahead and introduce your man as he comes on.
Yeah, well, we're gonna bring on the African speech tonight, brother Ray. Brother Ray is a powerful brother, man. Brother is full of wisdom. He reigns out of H Town at the moment. And this brother has traveled the world. He's seen many things, and he is the perfect example of a brother who has used his emotion system in
Mm.
order to elevate his consciousness. And so we definitely want him to be a part of this trialogue so we can dig into the tonight's topic and get it going, you know?
Well, welcome, brother
Hey,
Ray.
Hey, yeah.
welcome, and thank you so much, man, for that introduction. And I like that shirt you got on, man. Marcus Garvey is one of my favorite. I don't want to say heroes, but one of my favorites. And I got his portrait right here in my
There you
man
go.
cave as well. This topic ties in because Malcolm X is one of my favorites, as well as the day that they took our brother out, murdered him. That's the
Mm.
day that I was born. So because of that, man, I
Mm.
always followed Malcolm and had the pleasure actually meeting one of the guys up in Omaha, Nebraska that started the Malcolm X Foundation and just going to Omaha, which is a whole nother story, just feeling that whole vibe up there. It really gives you, I ain't gonna say, it gives you the feeling how he was going through when he was up there in Omaha, Nebraska, because man, it's still eerie up there, man, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you because which is on the topic. You said as he was forced to transition out. He was forced to transition out, and you said the day that he was forced out, you was coming in. Do you ever
February 21st.
realize? Do you ever look at that as an exchange of energy for you? You feel me? As he
Brother,
came out, I came in. And then look at where
that's
you
a
are
great
and how
question.
you see.
That's a great question, and yes, I do, man. I believe in divine intervention. I believe in the ancestors and the world and the energy, and like you said, with the emotions, I really believe that. And because of that, I took a attachment to Malcolm and followed him, and just learned his story. And just learning his story, man, was just very profound for me. So that transfer energy, I do feel that, man, and it just amazing that you look back 30, 40 years ago and we still dealing with the same issues that Malcolm was preaching back then. And a lot of people called him radical, but today it's not radical. It was the truth.
Mm, exactly. Now for me, I want to. The first time, now I think I was in I don't know, I was in high school, and I used to hang out with a brother named Kerry Crucial Keys Brothers. He wound up producing the Alicia Keys' first album, right? Crucial
Wow.
Keys, right? Wait, best friends back then. When I brought him to the house and I was hanging out with him, my mother was like, "Now he can come to the house every day." Right? So I was one of those brothers who had levels and layers of friends. I had some drug dealer, I had some thugs, I had some happy people, and then I had my intellectual body and then my spiritual body. And he was a part of my spiritual slash intellectual creative body. And he walked up to me one day and he went, and man, I love him for this, and I ain't never expressed this to him. And he went and handed me the autobiography of Malcolm X. And he looked at me and he said, "It's gonna change your life, IJ. It's gonna change your life." And so when I took the book, and this is the level of ignorance I had at that time, I took it and I said, "Thank you for the gift, but I ain't ready to change yet." So when I'm ready to change, I'm gonna read it, but I ain't reading it now. And then not
Right.
until my freshman year of college I sat down and I'm reading it that I realized the gem that he placed on my spirit, you know. And then of course I was my consciousness was growing coming up in New York, 5%ers, most of my family is Muslim, you know what I'm saying? And you know, Nation of Islam was around, and we slowly building, and then you get into college, and of course Public Enemy, Black Power, I was going through all that phase, and once that book hit my hand, it was over. It was over. So yeah, it definitely changed my
Yeah.
life.
Well, the autobiography is a powerful book in itself, you know, and what a lot of people don't know that there are two great autobiographies on Malcolm X. You have the one by Alex Haley, that was the
Hmm.
first one, and then you have Manny Marble's autobiography of Malcolm X, and it's somewhat of an autobiography of Malcolm X, but the one by Manny Marbles, it literally deals with the reinvention of Malcolm over
Mm.
time, how he kept becoming these new persons. You know, you had Malcolm Little. the kid born in the slums. You know, he lost his father to a white supremacist murder at an early age. They tried to make it look like his father had committed suicide, but really, white supremacists had killed his father.
Mm.
And then you had Malcolm losing his mother to a nervous breakdown almost, and she was thrown in a mental hospital in Kalamazoo. And then, you know, that book kind of shows you how Malcolm Little becomes Detroit Red, you know, which is the
Mm.
street hustler, the brother who's trying
Mm-hmm.
to survive on the streets, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what a street hustler is. You know, they paint, you know, the drug dealer, you know, the weed seller, you know, the brother who sells and slangs as
Right.
a monster, but really they're a product of their environment. And you know, and when you are a fatherless child and your mother is struggling as a single mother and has a nervous breakdown, then it's almost like somebody typed in your Google Map Quest penitentiary and set the destination to that penitentiary, and that's where you wind up. And that was the whole chronicle of Malcolm X becoming Detroit Red. But yet, you know, due to this brother's connection with God and this brother's powerful conscious mentality that he had, he was able to shift and manifest a new person and pull himself out of a messed up situation. And that's what we want to talk about tonight, because Malcolm said in his autobiography that emotions were a vital role in him elevating his consciousness and turning into a new person. And a lot of people don't know that emotions, a lot of times, can be utilized to your benefit. Even when you're feeling bad, you have the mental capacity to literally utilize your emotions to make yourself feel a different way.
Mm.
And that's one of the greatest secrets of mankind, is that literally we are connected to the cosmos. And we know that the cosmos is creative intelligence and cosmic energy. And if emotions is composed of energy and movement, then we know that that energy represents the cosmic God. And all we have to do is move in a certain way in order to start feeling godly. And that's what Malcolm X did. The brother was God body. I
Mm.
mean, everywhere
Mm.
he went, he was God in the flesh. I mean, every time he spoke, he owned his lectures, he
Right.
owned his presentations, because he was tapped into that emotional God consciousness. And we got to be about that every day. So let's dig into it, brother Jay. What
It,
you got?
and I'm gonna start with and I'm looking. You said it was 5 levels before he got to that last. The first one was Malcolm Little, right?
Malcolm Little. That's
Then
the distraught little boy. You know, let's deal with that, because we all come here like Malcolm Little. I
mm,
had my Malcolm Little experience. I'm pretty sure. I
well,
mean, I've heard your story. Your
well,
story is very similar. You
well,
lost your father at an early age. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
I don't know about you, brother Ray.
Yes, man. In regard to that, man, I just found out my biological father probably about 2 years ago,
Mm,
and found out that he was murdered at the age of about 25, 26 years old
wow.
by the Oklahoma City Police Department, which
Man,
pretty
Wow.
much brought a lot of things home with me, which also brought my journey to Africa. But yeah, not having a father in the home, man, really it was a disadvantage. I remember going to basic training, man, and I'm listening to some of the soldiers, other black soldiers, talk about fixing on cars.
Mm,
And listening to them, it was foreign to me because I have never, fixed on cars because I didn't have that father figure around. But to them, it was common knowledge.
mm.
So just little things like that, as well as learning how to court a girl, learning how to talk to a woman, um, little things like that you don't get as a child if that father is not around. Now, hats off to the women, the queens. They do the best they can do. But when you're trying to raise a man and trying to raise a boy, some things you need when it comes to that father figure in that household.
Definitely. And in this situation, we also talking about that feeling that that little boy is in according to those circumstances. How does he define himself according to those circumstances, that feeling? And I know for me, when we're talking about emotions and emotions being the catalyst to you determining who you are at that moment. And like we were saying, for me, my father left when I was 7. And for how I was emotionally felt in terms of being in that experience. Like you said, the 5 levels of Malcolm: Malcolm Little, Malcolm Detroit Red, prison Malcolm. Then you got Malcolm the minister, right? Well, that means it could have been another one, because it would have been Malcolm the seeker. Because when he was in prison and he was slowly being opened, then he became the Malcolm the minister. And then after Malcolm the minister, the separation of the FOI, where he said, whether I'm with a organized process or I now have to become my own organized process towards liberation. And that was the journey. You know what I mean? And so, like you said, his emotional state helped him to decide who he was in that event. For me, when I was a child and I was Malcolm Little, I sat down and said I didn't want to feel hurt when my father left. And this is probably was, like you said, how you feel. I felt like I loved my dad. And my dad left me because, even he left, he still loved me. And he put on me the title of man of the house when he left. Yo, you 7, I'm leaving, you'll never see me again, you're the man of the house. And I felt emotionally connected to that title. I'm gonna be the man of the house. That's right. I'm gonna be the man. And so the little midget me, you know what I'm saying? Malcolm Little in me, I went around trying to, man, if a Cologne, if I'd have grew up with you, I'd have tried to beat you up because you so big. Because the man ain't scared of nothing. He's going to do everything.
Right.
So I was fearless. And that emotion of connecting to that phrase of what my father gave, you are the man. And so my emotion of saying, okay, if I'm the man, I got to do and be and say certain things. So it literally, like you said, that emotional connection to that phrase or that statement gave me my identity.
Right, most definitely, and
And
that's what it's about. Because I'm sorry. Go
go ahead.
ahead, brother.
Okay.
Ray.
I
No,
also
go ahead,
go
Ray.
further and say you also had a blueprint. Now, I have a show called The Real Men Talk where I deal with a lot of men that have broken issues, broken problems, and a lot of us talking about what we're talking about, not having a father figure around. But you just stated you had that father that pretty much charged you to be the man of the house. So you had some type of blueprint to go by. Think about those who don't
I was
have no one
7.
around.
There was no blueprint. At 7,
Well,
everything I had to, and that's the thing, which is different from my experience, I had to literally ask myself in every situation, what would a man do? Because by 7, you don't, your father ain't really give you an example. You just look at the next 7-year-old you see. He don't know. He just having fun playing with his trucks. But after that day, and that was the difference with me, I asked myself through every situation, what would a man do in this situation? And I had literally had to imagine it. Because it was no, my father wasn't there. His definition was, I gave you my responsibility. So what is your responsibility? I didn't know I was 7. I had to imagine that. And that's what my mind, and what I love about him was the fact that he didn't just disappear, because if he just disappeared, he would have left me with nothing. He left me with a phrase, be a man. That's it. What that meant, I didn't know, but be a man. And that was the difference in my journey.
right. And the point I'm making, brother, you're exactly right. You were 7 years old. But think about that person who was 7 years old, probably didn't have no father figure,
Wow.
nothing whatsoever. So you at least had a little bit of someone to go by. A person that didn't have a father figure or a manhood around or someone just to stare them, they're completely lost. And you talking about emotionless, they're seeking. Just like Malcolm, he was seeking, especially, and his father was murdered too, seeking. So we, in this generation and in this time, a lot of us, a lot of men are seeking, even
Mm.
at the age of 30 and 40 years old, because that father figure wasn't around. And that goes back to just emotions. You don't even know how to deal with your emotions.
And we can say
That's right.
a lot of males are seeking, because without that rites of passage into manhood, you're a male seeking
That's right.
manhood,
That's
not a
right.
man seeking man. You're a
Right.
male.
Right.
Now we're dealing with it, because manhood is a mental state
Come on.
that has nothing to do with the anatomical maturity of your body.
Right.
Nothing at all. That's a mental state. I love one of Dr. King's last speeches. Dr. King says, Don't let anybody take your manhood. And I love when he said that because he's talking about the mental state, his level of consciousness, of understanding that I am a man. And because I am a man, there are certain responsibilities I have, as well as that there are certain liberties that I am entitled to. And I have to be treated that way in order to feel like a man. So, again, it all goes back to feelings, which is a state of your mind. But you guys said something that was very powerful. We all have dads. Everybody who's living has a dad. There's no doubt about it. You can't get here without a mom and a dad. So we all have dads, but not everybody who has a dad has a father, because
Mm.
fatherhood is another mental state. You have to father a child. A father, the word father is very similar to the word husbandman. It's something that you are taking care of. It's like you're a vineyard keeper. You have to water this plant to make sure that this plant can grow and that this plant is secured in its growth process. And so we know that due to the system of racism that we are dealing with, the system of racism has conditioned society for young black males and young black women, young black females, to be fatherless. If we can chop off the father from the family, then we can have black males who are raised without their father, so they don't know what fatherhood is, and they don't know how to be a man because they were never educated, or they never had an example to show them what that mental state looks like. That's what Malcolm X talked about in his autobiography. He was saying that he was emotionally distraught as a young kid growing up. He didn't know how to deal with these emotions because there was no example there. But it was not due to the fact that he didn't have a dad. He had a dad, and it was not due to the fact that his dad did not want to father him or his family. But his father was literally assassinated. I mean, destroyed, murdered off by the system of white supremacy. And that had something to do with the evolution process of Malcolm X for a while, to where it took him into uncharted waters. And he did not arrive to minister Malcolm X without having first to go through Detroit Red and go through that
Mm.
prison version of himself. And that's what we're talking about tonight, because a lot of us, we've given up on ourselves because we are a person that we don't like. But
Mm.
if you know how to utilize your emotions, and if you can tap into an institutional power that gives you the program and the content to become your best self, then you definitely want to do so, because Malcolm X also gives a lot of credit to the FOI, the Fruit of Islam, for being the program and the institutional power that allowed him to recover and heal from these emotional wounds that he had as a child and as he had as a young man. So, I just wanted to bring that out there, because a lot of our brothers are extremely gifted and talented. And
Well,
even though you're looking at these young black males in the hood and they look ratchet and they look restless, and there's a lot of wretchedness that they are dealing with, you're still looking at a young black messiah. You're looking at a black man that has the potential to be his best self, but he has to learn how to utilize his emotions in order to do so. And we know that America has a problem, a very serious problem, with the emotional state of black people. How many times have we heard black people are too emotional?
come on.
How many times have we heard that phrase? You too emotional. How the hell are you gonna be too emotional? That's a part of your nature.
In an
I have to
oppressive
express emotion.
society. Right.
That's right. I have to express emotions. And so when they say we're too emotional, they're not saying we're too emotional. That's not what they're meaning. That's not what they're meaning. That's a coded phrase for saying that we're angry and we're frustrated. And they don't want us to be frustrated, because they know that that frustration is directly correlating with the oppressive system that we're living in.
Mm.
So, how do we utilize our emotions to evolve and grow, and at the same time fight and struggle against the system of racism that we're dealing with?
And now I wanna pose a quick conversation so we can build into that, because one of the things you said, like I said, y'all are too emotional. Y'all are too emotional. Black people are too emotional. And in this uh, system of racism that we're in, the systematic oppression that we're in, And we're dealing with, because we sitting here, we can talk about black men because we brought up Malcolm, but we can talk about black women are definitely emotional, which I love them. Go ahead, y'all be as emotional as possible. But knowing that emotion can be a tool to reaching your best self, us as men say we don't access enough emotion. If they see it as a tool to reaching our best selves, is that a part of this a systematic unconscious process keeping black men non-emotional, their hearts cold, not connecting to family, their women? Is that a part of the conditioning so that we continue to perpetuate this slave mindset? If we can keep them
Let,
emotionless, because well, was it uh Music Soul Child, teach me how to love. He went down. Yeah, I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to tap.
right, right,
We're not
right.
I don't live a life that allows me to that luxury of being able to feel. And so that will
Let me
sit down
say
and show
this.
you how Malcolm Little, who father was a Garveyite, right? So there was some seeds planted, but then how Malcolm Little becomes Detroit Red because he was emotionless to almost everything at that moment in his life.
Yeah. Let me say this, and I'm gonna pass it to Brother Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm X, his parents definitely were Garveyites, and his father was a minister.
Mm.
So I mean, he had a good solid foundation. The issue was is that that foundation was destroyed by the system of white supremacy, or the so-called system of white supremacy, because we know that there's nothing supremacist about white. The issue is going back to this whole combative nature that blacks have with emotions, especially black men, is that we have been conditioned to be out of touch with our
Come
emotions.
on.
And if you're out of touch with your emotions, you're out of touch with your God, because your God is your emotional system. Again, God is creative intelligence and cosmic energy. And if you're not in touch with your energy, if you can't assess your own energy level, then you know that you're out of touch, not only with your emotional system, but you're out of touch with reality. Now, I'm going to tell you where this comes from. One of the processes of making a slave is to take control of their emotional state. And on the plantations, when we were being made into slaves, because there's no such thing as a born slave, you have to be made a slave. When we were being made to be slaves, one of the first things that the slave masters did was to destroy our independence and our emotional expressions. We couldn't express ourselves a certain way without being threatened, or our lives being threatened. And so you see that the best slave was a slave that was out of touch with his emotions, a slave that was dormant, not dominant, because we're dominant by nature. Blackness is a dominant trait. Blackness is the mother and father of all colors. So we know that we're genetically dominant, and the other end is genetically recessive. So we don't want them to be dominant. We want them to be dormant. We want them to be stagnated. And here's the issue. This is what's so frustrating about not having control of your emotions or being out of touch with your emotions, is that there's no such thing as stagnated energy. You cannot stagnate energy. Energy comes and goes. It's always moving. It's a powerful force. But when you try to hold energy in place, it explodes. And this is where you get this violent streak. This is where you get this emotional unstableness from black people, is that we are out of touch with our emotions, and we are trying to keep them underneath the surface when they really need to be expressed 24/7, because we are emotional creatures. But you're right, Ajay. That is a condition of the system of white supremacy, is that we want to handicap and paralyze and disable the emotional system of black society so that they can't function properly on a God conscious level. But if they do learn how to tap back into their emotional system and they learn how to use them to their benefit, then you're going to see these dominant traits come out again, and we're going to have a problem when it comes to controlling black society. So emotions are the code to becoming your best self. You just have to learn how to utilize them.
Now, I appreciate that segue. Now, brother Ray, he said, out of touch with your emotions is out of touch with the creator. being out of touch. So now you just went on a trip to the motherland,
Yes, sir.
reconnecting with your family and your bloodline, your heritage, coming in contact. Say now, could we say you came even more in contact with the emotions of who you are? Can you share that experience, brother, with us?
Let me share that, man. There was, oh man, so many emotions. So um, it was 27 of us that went over there. Okay, 18 of us from the Timmy tribe. They took us to meet the Paramount Chief because the Paramount Chief wanted to see all these Americans that was coming to visit, as well as all the Americans that traced their lineage back to Sierra Leone, known as Ceylon, and that was part of the Timmy. So we went there, and it was probably about 300 people, man.
Mm,
And the motion part about it is these people, once again, don't have a lot, man. They don't have transportation. A lot of them get around on buses, motorcycles. You'll see 3 and 4 people on a motorcycle, golf carts. But to see all these people from all over Sierra Leone to come see us was just, it was hard for me not to cry just to see the emotions, man.
mm,
These people came from all over Sierra Leone just to see us. So for them to stop what they're doing to come see us, they're losing money, first of all. The average minimum wage there that most people don't know in Sierra Leone is $50 a month.
wow.
$50 a month. Okay. So for these people to take off a whole day to go travel to see some people they don't know nothing about, they just know that we're Americans that traced our lineage back there to come see us. That right there, man, was heartfelt in itself. And to have the Paramount Chief talk, because they keep up with the news here, man. The message he wanted me to definitely bring back to the American people, not only from him, but also from the president. I had the privilege of meeting the president. They got plenty of land there. There's not a problem with land there. You can build your dream house there. They talked about George Floyd. They couldn't believe that that happened. They couldn't believe that we allowed it to happen. As well as when we look at it from our standpoint, we can't believe that we allow them to give up their resources.
Mm,
Now, being over there, I can understand now why they're giving up their resources. Um, Lack of running water, a lack of electricity, a lack of education. And when people talk about the African countries, you got to realize there is many African countries, like there's 50 states. But Africa in itself is a continent.
mm-hmm,
So don't quote me on my geography, but I think it takes about 25 United States to make up Africa.
mm,
So when you start talking about these different African countries, all of them got their different challenges. Texas got its own challenges compared to Louisiana. New York is completely different than California. So Sierra Leone is different than other African countries. They got their own challenges. So when you're talking about emotions, man, when the Paramount Chief started talking, man, and we introduced ourselves, and at the end, man, as soon as it was over, all these brothers and sisters that I carried the last name from came and ran up to me. It's probably about 25 of them, man.
mm,
25 of them. All of them ran up to me, and they ran up to the other ones because we all got different last name. And the name of ceremony is that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But to see these people come up me and embrace me and just love on me and share with me what was going on, as well as how they've been following us.
mm,
People don't realize from afar, we are the salt and pepper of the world.
mm,
And I can say that from
Mm.
experience because I've been through many countries, through the United States military as well as on my own. We are the salt and pepper of the world. Going to Banana Island, and I'm gonna come back to the Paramount Chief, but going to Banana Island where they was taking the slaves to come to Ghana and them other places such as the Caribbeans, Nova Scotia, all them other places. Banana Island. As soon as I got to Banana Island, it's probably once again about 15 of us that got there. They sitting there bumping our music. What was so fascinating about it, they're sitting there bumping Lil Wayne, knowing the words. Some of them know English, some of them don't know English, but they know the English words to Lil Wayne songs. So to catch a 30, 24-hour flight to a whole nother part of the world and see these people following us and emulating us, emotions really did hit me, man, because one thing I realized, and I can tell you, brothers, since I've been over there and coming back here to America, As black people here in America, we have our own issues. We got systematic racism, we got issues, but we got the best of both worlds. And you probably say, Brother Ray, how can the hell you say we got the best of both worlds? Let me tell you, we're educated. We're educated. Now, we may not be educated on where we come from and who we are, but we're educated. We can go anywhere on this continent and start a business based off our education. What you're doing right now, this is a business in itself. Second of all, we have resources. Now, we may not have land, but we have resources. I did an interview with me to the side, and I did an interview, and that's a whole nother conversation, but he was telling me what they needed to pretty much survive over there. And as I went over there, brother, it was 100+ Chinese on the same plane with me in suits about to go to work. When I say suits like this, about to go to a mining cave or some type of NBC place because they had these suits on. But it was 100 Chinese people on the plane with us. And there's nothing but Africans and black people on this plane. And one thing he told me, he said, what we got to do, we got to take control over our mining. The Chinese has taken all of our resources and they're shipping it back to China.
Mm-hmm.
So later on they can wage war against America to only kill us off.
Mm.
So that right there, the emotions definitely got to me, man, because listening to him and watching him is like the ancestors was talking to me through his eyes. And he told me, I'm probably going to get killed for telling you this, but I have to tell you this so my kids and my grandchildren can have a better life.
Mm.
But if the Chinese see you over here, they're going to be scared of you. I said, why is that? Well, because the Chinese know that you know who you are. You have already did a DNA test. Because you did a DNA test, they can't refute that. They can try to refute us, even though we're indigenous to this land. They can refute us because we don't have a DNA test. And as far as taking a DNA test, that's far from what they're trying to do because they're just trying to survive.
Right.
So the emotions, man, the emotions ran very high, man. Seeing babies walking barefooted, like I said, barely running water, barely electricity. And I'm in the villages. I'm not in Freetown. I didn't stay in Freetown, which is the capital of Sierra Leone, for like the last 7 years. So you talking about I'm out there eating with them. What they call a kitchen, what they call a restaurant is outside, but they're making do with what they got.
Mm.
Stores, they're making do with their stores. You see, as Brother Kalonji, they got the black market. The black market would be our outlet mall in Sierra Leone, man.
Mm.
Powerful.
Market. So, man, they're making do. It's sad to see the way our brothers and sisters is living. The paramount chief and the president pretty much mimic the same thing. What they want me to tell the American people is, we're watching you. We need you to come home. We need you to come help us build. And they say that because we're not getting there fast enough. As I told you, and I tell people because they ask me, why are they giving up their resources? These people are trying to survive. They don't have medicine. They don't have food. Dude told me everything that y'all throw away, we can use. Wow. And that wasn't a lie. Everything that we throw away, they can use. So you're talking about a country that's rich with resources. Now, on another conversation, I had another meeting before I left to try to get into mining because I have the option. And that's one of the benefits now that I trace my lineage back there. I have a lot of options and benefits that I can actually go into mining and start mining gold and diamonds. They have gold and diamonds. They're holding on to this because they do not want to give it up. And they're hoping that we get there in time so we can take it over. But it's some challenges with that as well. As the mother told me, and once again, the women are respected completely different. The women run stuff over there. I just say that the women run stuff over there. The man is pretty much the facilitator, but the women run things over there. Koya Village, mother, we call her mommy. Now, hear what I'm about to tell you. This woman is probably 80+ years old. Beautiful. She probably owns more than 100 acres of land. There's probably more than 200 buildings on that 100+ acres. And I'm probably being liberal with how much she owns. But she lived in a little bitty shack. She was so happy when they fixed her roof because her roof was leaking with water. She don't have no house like you and I. The houses that we got we got is considered luxury to have their living. But they got resources. They got land. So when you're talking about emotions, man, emotions run very deep because you're seeing how they're living, and then you're thinking about your brothers and sisters back in the state and what we're fighting for. But be honest, brothers and sisters, we have more than enough. We just got to unite. And it's almost like the world is waiting for us to unite. Until we unite, it's going to be what it is. It's like the world is waiting on us. Waiting on us.
And you know, one of the problems, Brother Ray, that we have as Black Americans is that we lack a emotional identifying experience with Africa. We have to be able to emotionally identify with Africa. It's one thing to be referred to as an African in American, African American, or Black American. We know that that has ties to Africa. It has ties, even if you consider yourself to be indigenous to America. We know that the first indigenous people who arrived to this land was Africans. And so there's no way you can get out of being African. We have to have a emotional connection to Africa. In order for us to have an African conscious, we have to be able to emotionally connect to Africa. And it's amazing that you was able to do that on such a level to where your emotional connection with Africa led you to go back and physically visit Africa, because we have a lot of Pan-Africans who haven't even went to Africa yet. We have a lot of Black nationalists who've never stepped foot on the continent of Africa. But it demonstrates a high level of emotional connection that you had that made you say, hey, man, let me get on an airplane and let me go back and visit the homeland of my ancestors so that I can emotionally connect on a greater level when I see the faces of my distant brothers and sisters from the motherland. And I'm pretty sure that's what you mean when you say emotions ran deep, is that you were able to bring a manifestation to your imagination of Africa. To where I can now go, I don't have to imagine it. I can go and breathe the fresh air of the motherland. I can go there and talk to my distant brothers and sisters from the motherland, Africa. And that just speaks to the power of, again, your emotional consciousness. One of the things I wanted to talk about too, Brother Ray, is you and I talked about some of the organic rawness of the African culture, the dancing, the circle gatherings, and things of that sort. And I was reading a book, brother, called The Emotion Code. You know, when I was working on this lesson, Best Self Transformation, I was working on some of the avenues in this book, talking about incantations and the power of emotional hypnosis, and how you can literally wake up in the morning. You can be feeling like, excuse my French, but you can be feeling like ish. I'm not gonna put the it on it, but you can be feeling like manure in life mentally, and you can literally strategically use your emotional settings and feel like a king or a queen in a matter of seconds. And they call that incantations. That's like getting in front of a mirror and giving yourself affirmations, but not just doing it verbally, but also involving your body into it, to where now you're really controlling your blood pressure, you're controlling the temperature of your body, and you're getting in a mood to feel better about yourself. It's amazing. Now, this is a white man who wrote this book, but in the book, he keeps accrediting the art and the science of incantations to the organic culture of Africans, and how there was something strategic about Africans gathering in a circle and beginning to chant and play the drums and sing, that they were literally making themselves feel a certain way and tapping into the sacredness of their emotional system. And this is why they're always painted as a happy people. You see what I'm saying? Even in history, the white man would say, oh, these people are gullible. It wasn't that we are gullible, we are joyful, because we understood the power of our emotions. We understood that we can go in and change the settings. We can lower the volume or raise the volume. It's all about how we strategically utilize the emotions. Brother Ray, could you share that, man? Because I know you talked about how you were just overwhelmed by those experiences that you had when you saw the rawness and the organicness of the culture.
Brother Kalanji, man, I'm still trying to decompress, and I've been back probably almost 2 weeks. I don't feel like it, but I'm still trying to decompress based off everything that I have witnessed and experienced. One thing that definitely stood out to me in regards to what we're talking about with emotions and the culture, the naming ceremony, man. The naming ceremony was so powerful.
Mm.
So the way they do the naming ceremony in the Timney tribe, man, and I know it probably varies from different tribes, but they have what's called the people dancers. They start at 12 o'clock at night. Now we was leaving about 8, 9 o'clock, going home, get ready to prepare for the next day. They was bringing out the singers, and what they do, they play the drums and they sing all night up until the naming ceremony, conjuring up the ancestors and spirits. So while you in your bed sleep, watching TV or on Facebook, you got these people singing and dancing, preparing the way for you.
Woo!
That right there
Mm.
was like, wow, are you serious? And they're outside in the element. So no matter if it's raining, they still out there. They're singing, they're dancing. This is going all night. So you got to tell yourself it has to be some type of supernatural spirit to even make you even want to do that to keep going. So then when you get to the
Mm.
naming ceremony, the spirit is already there, first of all. So you go
Woo!
into the naming ceremony, they're still singing, they're still dancing. They give me even more hype, even more spiritual because now that you're there. And when you receive that spirit, you have no choice but to move, man. I remember one of the brothers coming up to me and he was just laughing. I'm like, what's going on? He said, man, everybody is looking at you. They said, you've been here before. And I'm a person, I don't dance and can't dance. But he said, according to them, they said you can dance and you've been there before. They just looking at you and laughing because you're really dancing like us. And I was like, wow. So we going through all that, man, and then going through the naming ceremony. The naming ceremony was so powerful, man, because at the end of the naming ceremony, what they do is they sacrifice two goats.
Mm.
They take a male goat and they take a female goat. And they hold the female goat down and they kill the female goat. Then they bring the male goat and do the same thing. To show you the power of the female, the black woman, the queen, that female goat still was fighting for her life after about 5 minutes. Still fighting, which was symbolic to how strong the black woman and the woman is.
Mm.
When they got
Mm.
the male goat didn't take long to die. He was gone. Didn't take long.
We was out.
He was out. He was out within about a minute. He was out.
Oh, he cut me.
But you see that symbolic thing, man. It resonated and it brought it all home. That's how strong the female is, and that's why the female is the powerful. I say this is what I say: the black woman is the next thing next to God, in my opinion,
Come on.
Mhm.
Say it again.
and that's my personal opinion. Yes, because you
Mother,
can't do nothing with it.
mother, father,
Can't do
God.
nothing with
Mother come
it. Right,
first. Yes.
right, right. So to see that, man, it just, oh man, once again, it just brought it home. And as you stated earlier, man, these people, our people don't have a lot. And if I was the enemy, realize I did that to these people and they're still not gone, I'd be scared out my goddamn mind because you doing as much as you can, but you still can't get rid of these people.
Mm.
They're still
Mm.
singing, we're still marching, we're still going.
Mm.
But as the enemy, yes, I'd be very scared.
Mm.
Mhm.
Very scared.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah. Well,
So
now, can I interject, please? Because
go
we
ahead.
at the Pan African Orthodox Christian Church, Shrines of the Black Madonna, we have a naming ceremony, right? And when I tell you, it is literally the most powerful experience I have ever been a part of. Ever. And last week we talked about Onaje, we talked about sound, and we talking about emotion now. We bringing this together. Onaje was that voice that would sing you to the newness of you. And anytime we have this ceremony, it's like when you're in there, and then Maia gets the mic. When you're in there, it's like lighting a match. One fire go, and then it's and then all of a sudden the whole room is lit. And it's like you're being named all over again. So to watch somebody come in and get their name, And that ceremony, that singing, and that praise before the naming ceremony even starts, to drum up that level of energy that somebody is crossing over to self-awareness. Woo! When you talk about that power in that moment in this church that we exist in, called the Shrines of the Black Madonna, if you go through the naming ceremony, I'm trying to tell you, you can't go back from Malcolm X, the independent minister, to Malcolm Little. There is no door that you can open that would send you backwards. It's so powerful. And for you to tell me that over in the continent, now we start the ceremony slow, it builds, the lights out, drums come. When Onaje's voice hits, man, we building and building, and then by the time it transitions into my ear, it's in a frenzy. You said they start at midnight. Understand the power that is in the atmosphere by the time you show up. When they started midnight calling ancestors all night long in an emotional frenzy to connect to blood lineage, to have them celebrate the self-awareness of an African by giving them something sacred as a name. Woo! Man, brother. I now and I gotta, and I ain't been yet, y'all. I tell African gotta take a trip. That's just nothing but I could feel the power.
Right,
Brother,
right, and that's what it's about. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
by
Ray.
you saying that, I don't think most people really, and I didn't understand that till I went to Salon, Africa myself. I don't think people realize how important that is and how powerful it is. I had no clue, brother Kalanji.
Mm.
Had no clue, brother the African, that I was going to experience it. I had no clue that it was that powerful. And you
Mm.
can't help it. Most man, I probably cried 3 or 4 times over there, man. Um,
I can't
the
see
other part,
how you stop. It would have been one just series of I never stop crying.
bro, bro. That's the sweet part of it.
Mm.
But when you talk about the bitter side of it, how they took our ancestors and put them in a building, and the building was probably this high they had no choice but to squat down
Mm.
and only had about a slit, about that much to look out. And you got everybody chained up, dark, scared, crying. And it's probably about 300 people in a room that can only hold 50 people.
Mm.
You but to let your emotions go.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
that's
then to
right.
drag them out and then throw them on a goddamn boat. And I'm talking about being on that boat. That was another experience. And I'm a avid swimmer. But to get on that boat, man, and to go to that island, and you feel those waves hitting that damn boat, those waves and that water coming in that boat. And I'm a free man. So just putting myself in my ancestors' shoes, that's scary.
Mm.
You're in that boat not knowing that you can be shot or you can be drowned. And you probably already been beaten the shit out of, as well as you got these different type of shackles on your hands, on your neck, and you got about 200 people on the boat that probably can only fit 40, so the boat is liable to sink any minute. And you talking about motion sickness. It's more than motion sickness. You're barefooted, you're cold, and you have no idea where you're going, but you're going to another island with all these other strangers. You have no brother. Me and my girl both cried. And matter of fact, I filmed it, but I had to stop filming. That's how emotional it was.
Mm.
Going to that island, learning about that island. One thing I can tell you about the island, and not to get off topic, our people are living once again, like I said, like in sheds.
Yeah,
The best
yeah,
analogy I can give you, I remember one of the brothers and sisters said that looked like some of the houses back in Mississippi about 20 years ago.
Mm.
But the two most erect buildings that's on that island, take a guess. What is the two most erect buildings on that island? Take a guess.
the slave castle or the church
The
in
Right.
church,
Georgia.
brother.
The church. As I say,
The church.
Mm.
Now, which brought religion even more full circle for me, because once they told me about the church and how they did our people, pretty much they beat them to death, almost to death, until you submit. If you didn't submit, they just threw you in the pit, and they threw you in the pit. You was gonna die regardless.
Mm.
Those that did make it and that submitted, and they was pretty much half dead, went to the church. And then once you went to the church, anytime they rung that bell, you better be in that church to get that lecture.
Mm.
Which let me know even more what we've been taught here in America is wrong.
Totally
Religion
wrong.
was a
It's a
form of
brainwashing.
rights. Right.
That's right.
To,
It's a
to,
brainwashing too.
to add that, now we talked about because and I know we're connecting it to the lesson on Sunday when you said oppression is the parent of depression.
Depression. That's right.
Oppression is the parent of depression. And to oppress, of course, is to constrict emotions, constrict thought, constrict lifestyle, constrict living, to conform it to someone else. And that depresses who you are or who you seem you are. And I know in our church there's a thing that we are taught when we're learning to get to our best self. And that's where we lead to getting to our best self, and how emotion can be a tool to get to our best self. But then we also got to look at how emotion was a tool to keep us from our best self. How limiting that experience changed us being able to see us in the eyes of the Creator. And that is its thing, like he said, the declaration of black inferiority is how we define it in the church. DBI. Someone declared you inferior. Someone told you you were not a direct manifestation of God's thought. Somebody told you that you are less than who you are according to your skin pigmentation. Somebody declared it to you. And just because they declared it doesn't make it so. So you had to go through a constant process of oppression, constricting you to depress the God in you, right? And so now it goes from declaring you're inferior to living with a mindset of what we call in the church ABI, the acceptance of black inferiority. So now you declared it. We've been declared it so much on both sides, or really not even say both sides, on all sides of the globe. Everywhere you go, it was a constant oppress to depress. It was a declaration of you are not who you say you are. We're going to tell you who you are, and we're going to keep you hidden from the emotions that connect you to the higher power, which gives you your identity. And so now we live in a state of acceptance of their declaration against us. And that's why the oppression of emotion is so important in terms of perpetuating this slave mindset. Because if they get to that point where they're drumming for midnight to daybreak, calling on ancestors, fevering up an emotion at that moment, because even in the statement of Willie Lynch, they said if these people have an encounter with the Creator, everything that we've done for the last 400 years, anything that we've done in terms of operant conditioning will be reversed, because they have the emotional connection to the Creator and they can feel who they are. And that's a difference. So that ABI and DPI and so having that experience, like you were saying, Kalonji, where we got to feel that connection.
You know,
And Brother Ray was saying, before I go, Brother Ray was saying, people who only get paid $50 a month took a day off to come and greet lineage. That's a feeling. That's power right there. I want to see me in you and you in me. I'm coming to see my brother. That's beautiful.
It's a level of consciousness. But you
That's
broke
it.
it down. Before we accept black inferiority, it's already declared. Like you said, the Declaration of Black Inferiority has associated actions, and those associated actions are the acceptance of Black inferiority. In other words, you live in a way that lets me know that you've accepted that your Blackness is inferior and your actions are inferior. And that's what we do all the time when we don't understand the power of understanding how important it is to venerate your ancestors and to have pride in your race and in your culture. Every time you see somebody who is literally shitting on their own culture, you're going to also see some kind of action that demonstrates or exemplifies the acceptance of Black inferiority. You said it earlier, Brother Ray, when you said that to see what they did to my ancestors brought me to tears. Brother, that means that you have emotionally identified with your African culture. That means you're connected to it. And it's now your story. One of the tools of white supremacy is that they don't want that to be the story of Black Americans. They want us to believe that that happened in the past. That's not your story. Y'all problem is that y'all just crazy and lazy and overly emotional. That has nothing to do with what our ancestors did to your ancestors. And you don't need to emotionally try to connect or identify with that, because that's just not true. And that's BS. It's very much true. It has everything to do with your present day emotional state. You have to be able to go back. That's what the terminology Sankofa means. You have to go back and fetch that and connect yourself to it, mind, body, and spirit, so you can go back and repair and build a bridge to your ancestors so you can get your present day emotional state straight and be able to elevate your consciousness. That's what happened to Malcolm. Malcolm said that when he heard the information, when he heard the good news of the prophet, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the first thing it did is it made him feel as if his Blackness was superior and not inferior. He began to understand that he is the God that is talked about in the Bible. He began to understand that that sacred writing is his story, and the way it made him feel allowed him to elevate his consciousness into being an uneducated Black man who couldn't read nor write, to being a Black man who taught himself how to read and write on a collegiate level while he was in jail.
Come on.
That's what your emotional state can do for you, but you got to be able to tap into it, and you got to be able to strategically use it so you can make yourself feel a certain way. Because in white society, American society, this society has been engineered and conditioned to make a Black person feel depressed, to make a brown person feel depressed, to make you feel and live in your lesser self state versus your best self state. And so when we begin to strategically utilize our emotional system, we can turn into the people that our great ancestors were. And we're talking about these ancestors who built the pyramids, these ancestors who were such on an elevated conscious level that when they built something, it had something to do with the metaphysical state of themselves. And they just wanted to have it around physically so they can always be in some form of memory of all that they are. And so when you see the Sphinx, when you see the head of a man and the body of an animal, that originator, that architect was trying to say, this is what we go through in our consciousness. You have to understand that we're mind, body, and spirit. A part of us is divine and connected to the cosmos. And there's a part of us that is human, and it is connected to the behaviors of the beast. And so we must understand that we have to always live in an elevated consciousness and not a de-elevated consciousness, so that we can be our best selves. As we must understand, it was said in the autobiography that the white man is the animal underneath the Black man who is the God. And so that's what we're talking about. They're stuck in being on the beast level. Our ancestors had elevated and evolved beyond the beast level to a God consciousness. And we got to get back to that God consciousness. And how can you get back to that God consciousness if you don't go back and identify emotionally with the originators of God consciousness, which is the ancient African people of this earth. That's what we have to do. And we can't sit here and, like you say, Brother Ray, we wasting time. We
Mm.
playing around. We wanna be ratchet. Hey man, come on now.
Come on.
There's a reason why we want to be ratchet. There's a reason why we want to get high all the time. We want to drink all the time and get drunk. We're trying to dull our emotional state because right now we're aggravated, we're frustrated, and we're agitated, and we don't want to feel those feelings. But you got to go through the process of feeling those feelings. You just can't act like you're happy. You gotta feel like you're happy. Oh, you
Right.
understand that
Right.
there's a difference between acting and feeling. And brother, you just blessed my life with just giving the story of how you emotionally connected
Connected.
to
Wow.
something that happened to a people who lived 400 plus years ago. That's the power of emotions. They are beyond time. It gives you the ability to time travel.
Mm.
Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Mm.
And that's what it means
Yes,
to
sir.
connect to God. We know God is outside of time. There was no time when the cosmos created itself. Are you
Wow.
understanding what I'm saying? It created time, but we can go back and live beyond time if we're able to connect to that God consciousness.
Now, Brother Ray, was a question on you because you coming back and this experience is fresh for you, and having that connection, that emotion. You said that you made a statement that I have an opportunity now to get into mining, right? So obviously something in you was charged now to deal with the situation or the issue, because the brother said I can lose my life explaining to you the dynamics of global power moving in on Sierra Leone. And global powers is anything outside. They coming in on us. The Chinese now are making a move to control the resources here in this land for their own wealth. So I could lose my life speaking to you about truth. Because the only power, we always say speaking truth to power, the only power I acknowledge is the creator. There's no other power. Other than that, you speaking truth to the falsehood. And that's why it's angry, because you can't speak truth to white people power, because that means that they ultimate. And I always disagree with that statement. So it's actually speaking truth. The only power, he says, I can die. Why? Because they're going to try to assert their force because they don't have any power. They're going to try to assert their force to make you believe that, look, you can't go past this. This is not going to happen. We're going to control this. So obviously you have a pull to have a solution, because he had a pull in his connection to you to speak the truth so that you could have a response to it. Is there now a greater urgency in you in terms of, like you said, you have options now? You want to speak on that feeling of connecting to those options?
Brother, yes, I now do have options. Also, I feel a sense of a charge,
There we go.
an obligation. My girl and I, we went over there. We took over 400 books, man, and it was a project that she started. And the Koya Kingdom, we went there and went to 3 different schools. And so happened it was the first week of school, and it was probably about 30 kids out there, man, and they was all dressed up. And that's one thing about us as a people, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. Don't matter where we at, we always look good, man. We always look good. So the babies was dressed up, man. They was looking good first week of school, and spoke to the principal. And I've told this story several times, but I want to tell it to everyone that's listening. Um, so took the books. The kids was so happy, man. They started singing for us, and that was another emotional thing. Just watching these kids who barely have anything, just to be happy for some books.
Mm.
Where here in America, man, we have abundance of books, and people don't even want to read. So that's a whole nother conversation in itself, man. But they were just happy to have books that they can read. And me and my girl, we donated 1,000,000 leons to the school. 1,000,000 leons is equivalent to about $100 of 100 American dollars. Now let me show you how powerful this is. We donated 1,000,000 leons to this one school, and which we could have did more, man. It's only so much we can do at that time. But the 1,000,000 leons, once again, is $100. The teachers And this teacher, once again, in this particular area, got paid more than the average. She got paid $200 a month, but she used 150 of that just to get back and forth to teach. So she pretty much only makes $50. It goes back to once again the minimum wage.
Wow.
So she makes about $50. But they was just in shock and all. So we gave those books, and the person they named me after, which is Saru Kano, that is my name. They named me after Bishop Kano's grandfather. Bishop Kano passed away last year. I had the pleasure of meeting his wife, which was a whole nother divine intervention because I didn't even supposed to meet his wife. I was supposed to have went somewhere else. The lady that's with us, she forgot her suitcase, so we had to catch a cab all the way across town, which was probably about 45 minutes away, where they was going to his grave site to meet his wife. So we ended up catching a cab, and the woman sees me get out the car, and they told her that's Sadhu Kano. That's who we named after Bishop Kano's grandfather. Went there and met her. She was so happy. But my plans was never to go down there. I was going elsewhere, but God sent me somewhere else. He sent me down there to meet her. So going down there to meet her, she spoke English, and they got an orphanage. So she took me to the orphanage, and she was showing me all these kids. And she's like, yeah, my daughter built the orphanage, and they got probably like 50 kids. You got to realize a lot of these kids do not have parents due to Ebola and due to the war. So you got a lot of fatherless and motherless kids living in this orphanage that they trying to take care of. And anyway, she said my daughter came back from London. She got tired of being in London, so she came back and she built this school. And she said, I just got back from America. I was there. I lived in Virginia. I lived in North Carolina. I lived in New York. I was working 7 to 3, sometime 3 to 11, sometime 11 to 7. Stayed there for 5 years, and I couldn't wait to get back here. So she said, I packed up and left America and came back here and doing the orphanage and doing the school. But to go back to the school, brothers, some of these kids don't even go to school till like the age of 10 or 12. So when they get to school at the age 10 to 12, a lot of them get clowned because they're too big to be in school. So because a lot of them end up dropping out. So that was a touching thing that made me feel even more obligated to get these schools up and running because there's no jobs.
Right.
There is no job. They begging for factories. They begging for work. The women, a lot of women are prostituting themselves out because there's no jobs. No jobs. They're begging for jobs. They don't got no problem working. They want to work. There's no jobs. So a lot of them is creating their own jobs, whether they're selling mangoes, whether they're selling peppers, whether they're doing day labor. One of the interesting story that was told to me by a brother, a manager of the hotel, he said, on my way home, I picked up this woman because I noticed, she was walking. So I picked her up and come to find out she was prostituting herself out. And I asked her, why was she doing this? And she told me her mother and father had died like 5 years ago. And the guy that got her pregnant, he died when the baby was 3 months. And all she got is herself. So when she wake up, she usually don't have no food for the baby. She probably make a little biscuit and give the baby a biscuit. And then she try to get somebody to watch the baby while she got food, try to get food or money, but there's no work and she don't have no one. So therefore, that's the only option she see to make money.
So you're talking about severe levels of poverty.
Yeah, inside
Severe
this
levels.
area,
Brother,
see wrong.
that's what I'm talking about.
Bush.
So the question that the brother asked me, yes, I do have an obligation. I feel like I got an obligation to do what I can do, man, because one of my brothers hit me up while I was over there and he was asking me what I think about Biden. I'm like, brother, I don't give a damn about no goddamn Biden. I'm over here and it's a completely different
Right?
mindset over here, which let me know, man, that we're very sidetracked with so many things. And it goes back to what y'all been talking about with emotions, brother. We got to use that emotion and channel that emotions to other things. We got to channel those emotions to our purpose. We got to channel that emotions to be better and greater than, man, versus all this nonsense and bullshit. They go do what they go do, but we still can do what we can do. And that goes back to just knowing who you are and using those emotions in a better energy. And I don't think even myself, I'm working on that. I'm not using my emotions the way it should be used. I'm letting someone else dictate my emotions. All this propaganda we see on TV and all this bull, it is what it is, man. We shouldn't be surprised, but we should be focusing on what we can do to come together. We should be focused on self-development as well as nation building. So going over there to Africa, man, Salone, I would tell everyone that's listening to me, even if you don't research your lineage, because once again, the way I went over there was completely different. I didn't go over there as a tourist. And I tell people, I did not go as a tourist. I went over there researching my lineage. I went over there for economic development. So because I ended up meeting the Ministry of Economics, the Ministry of Tourism, um, met the president once again, met the president's bodyguards, met a lot of people in high places over there that's wanting us and begging us to come over there and help build the nation. But we're not getting over there fast enough. So even if you don't want to go live in Africa, I would say just go visit. See how our brothers and sisters live and see what we can do to help. Because there's a lot that we can do to help. And they know that. They know us in America, we don't have no resources. We really don't have no land because land has been stolen. But they got plenty of land and resources over there. They just don't know how to utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
know.
that goes back to
Yeah, I know one of the things is a part of this oppressive wheel that they try to keep spinning. One of the mechanisms in this wheel, one of the cogs or circuits that continues to function, is not giving us a connection to home. Keeps our intellectual and spiritual property here. You know what I mean? Because when you got immigrants that come over to here, they send their money home. They send the financial resources that they get home. You know what I mean? Even small places like Trinidad. Trinidad will send kids to America to get educated to go back to Trinidad after they graduate to work in the government institutions so that they can help build infrastructure in Trinidad. And this is me being Jamaican and me being connected to the Jamaicans that was on Savannah State's uh, um, 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 college campus, and it was clear. I'm like, well, where'd you came? Well, I got a full scholarship from the Trinidadian government. Well, how'd you get here? Well, Trinidad gave me a full scholarship. What? Yeah, and when I graduate, I have a job at Trinidad helping to build infrastructure, and that's one of the things where we said that and in this cog of oppression where that wheel is spinning. We need to keep them from being connected because, like he said, overseas, at home, there are resources. There is land. There is natural ore. You know what I'm saying? In the ground. There's things that can be processed if we learn how to process it ourselves. So if the African in the American diaspora comes back home to help claim the resources in their land, that changes the landscape everywhere. And so
Right.
as we look at this, we can talk about because we skipped the process of the chronology of Malcolm X in prison because that was the awareness, but that would be his opening up to self to get to the point where we're dealing with Malcolm the minister, right? Where once you realize that we accepted the Declaration of Black Inferiority, and now we're going to erase it. I'm connected to who I see myself in God. I've learned and studied my history. I'm now emotionally connected and infused to the identity that the Creator gave me. Now I'm charged, like he's the challenge. I'm charged to do something about it. And that's clear. You cannot say you struggling for yourself, best self, if all you talking about is yourself. The best self awareness connects us as a people, and it
It's a
connects
collective
what.
truth.
Go ahead. Whatever talent and gifts and attributes that is in you is now surrendered unto a people's movement to reclaim themselves. And that's the evolution where we get to Malcolm the minister now. Because now I'm going to walk, I'm going to help you, connect you to your emotions of your knowledge of self. I'm going to give
That's
that to
right.
you. Can you build on that, brother? Because it's your sermon.
Yeah, Malcolm said something powerful. One of his greatest quotes. He was talking about the craziness of black people in America, the oppressed slave, the slave syndrome. And Malcolm said, black people in America say, I don't have anything in Africa. I don't have no connections with Africa. And Malcolm came back and he said, why you left your mind in Africa.
Mm.
That's what you left in Africa. You left your mind in Africa. And that was such a deep statement, because what Malcolm X was talking about, really about present day African Americans, is that their body is here, but their mind is not here. And we know about the sacred triangle. The sacred triangle has 3 points: the mind, the body,
In
and
the
the
spirit.
spirit.
Well,
When
talk about
you
it.
don't have your mind and your body connected, when there is no cohesiveness, no correlation, no
Come on.
collectiveness in the body and the mind, and they have been separate, they have literally been split asunder. And this is pretty deep, because this goes back to the sacred mythology of the Kemites. What the Kemites understood is that the way to break God down is to separate God, to cut a saw in pieces and separate his body. That's what his brother Set did. He chopped him up in small pieces and he sent his body all across the world, and it really dislocated his mind. He was not able to put his mind in his body. So what you're dealing with is a mindless people, a people who don't have a mind of their own. They are people who are under the control of somebody else's mindfulness. And we are a black people who are American. I say it all the time. We are white black people. We have the mind of white people. And we got to get our minds back, because if we can get our minds back, then we can get back connected to the appropriate emotional state that we had before we left our minds in Africa. And that's what we're really going up against right now. And so it's much deeper than business or finances or education. It's the whole process of becoming African again, and understanding that we cannot sit here and romanticize no parts of European culture and yet be African. We have to understand what totally happened to our people. As Brother Ray said, when he went over there, his imagination cooked it up. He was able to see his ancestors in chains. He was able to see. He just gave a demonstration. If the brother wanted to, he would have stood up and squatted down and got
Right.
into the small position, trying to convey to us how they were uncomfortably oppressed, and how they had to literally almost have their bones dislocated and broken in order to fit in these small slave ships, and they're stacked on one another like sardines. His emotional state allowed him to connect to that again, because he identified with it. Malcolm understood this. So when Malcolm became Malcolm the minister, it's because he went and got his mind back. And he understood that his mind was in Africa, because he understood he was an African. The Nation of Islam gave him that. Now we got to continue to give our children that. Man, one of the issues is that our children are not educated to know of their African origins. Public schools don't even teach the greatness of Africa. And when they do talk about Africa, they talk about Africa in a derogatory way, in an uncivilized way. They talk about Africa as it being a place that is uncivilized and primitive and undeveloped. And those people out there are literally crazy, and they have no relationship with God. And so you got to put Christianity on them just to bring them out of their primitive state. That's the Africa that African Americans know. But that is not the Africa that the Europeans knew about. They knew about the richness of Africa, so they can bring it back to their countries, and also bring African people back to their countries, but not bring them totally, just bring their bodies. We don't want their minds. We just want their bodies, because we also know that they are strong people. They can build pyramids and all of these great statues, and we don't even understand the sacred geometry that they use to get this done. We definitely want their muscle here in our country, so they can build and make our nations and countries look just like
theirs.
I mean, come on, man. We gotta talk about this, because this is what gets me in the emotional state to be a revolutionary.
Come on.
I can't be a revolutionary unless I understand the importance of that being a revolution, because something was taken from me that is so great that I can't allow them to have it.
Come on.
I can't allow them to lie about it. I can't allow them to continuously oppress future African Americans and future African people. We got to be revolutionary so we can do something about this. And so, man, it's like you said, Brother Ajay, we got to get our minds back. And just to bring this back to Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm said when he finally visited Africa, he visited Ghana, he visited Nigeria, he went to Akon, he went to the universities in both African nations, and they gave him an African name too, Omawale. And he identified with it, Malcolm said. He said, I identified with it so much that it brought him to tears because it was children. He said it was children who gave him this name. And they said, man, I'm so glad you came home because that's what Omawale means, that the prince has returned. It's almost like Lion King when Rafiki saw Simba going back home to Pride Rock. Rafiki got up and he says, the king has returned. And that's what it's about. It's about us returning back to our king mindset so we can do kingly things and godly things. And so I'm gonna let y'all rock with it, man. But yeah, I'm getting frustrated just thinking about it because there's a level of potential greatness that we have that we not tapping into. Yeah. And if we tap into it, we'll feel better about ourselves, you know?
We have a guy made a comment, Benjamin Carter. He said everybody needs to be responsible of their own energy and being conscious of how you feel when we are amongst each other and for not passing the negative. If you realize it, and that's the thing about, conscious people, you have conscious people or semi-conscious people who will condemn you for your lack of consciousness. Not an issue of feeling compassionate, but an issue of condemning. I'm going to put you down because you don't know who you are. And that doesn't even make sense to me. I'm going to put you down because you don't know who you are. And being able to be conscious of the energy that we share with one another, the energy that we share, back and forth within ourselves. If you feel good about you, then don't put me down. Help me feel good about me too. And that was the purpose of what Malcolm was doing. I'm going to sit down and the goodness that I found in me, I'm going to give that goodness to you so your awareness wakes up. You left your mind in Africa. I need to help you get back your righteous mind. The debate, a great debate is. And he wound up playing both characters. He played Malcolm and he played the professor. Denzel played the professor in there, and he said those phrases. Now, in that space of gaining the righteous mind, this is one of the things that I always say, and I understand how you were saying you get frustrated, and for me in my journey, I said the most angriest black man on the planet is the most calm, collected, and programmatic man that walks the earth. He's the one I am working through my emotions to produce something to make sure I don't have to feel this way. A lot of people, when we start talking about and they were, like you said, you down with Biden.
Hold on, brother, say that again.
I am working on the things that I can. As when I'm aware of who God called me to be, instead of me acting out in blind rage, I am the most programmatic man working on ending this oppression. The angriest man is the most calm and collected and cool man because he says, I know that if blind rage reaches out, I solve nothing. But if I can contain this power that's in me to create, to build, to be about what God, I am a co-creator with the creator. So I'm going to build. This is what in traditional Christianity, they call it kingdom building. You're not building kingdom, but you're not kingdom building if you're not building counter institutions that work against the system that has oppressed us. And so the most angriest man is the most calm and programmatic brother because he said, what I'm doing every day that I breathe works against the system that is destroying my people. Everything I do.
Like you said, that's a person who's taking responsibilities for their own emotional effect.
That's
what the brother Benjamin is talking about.
We
got to control. We can't dance to the fiddle of their music or their tune.
Come on.
And that's what we were taught to do on the plantations. When they wanted to laugh, when they wanted to crack up and joke and have a good time, they would put the pigeon stool up, the black man. They would pick Uncle Ben up and make them dance and perform for them so they can get emotionally stimulated from our own performance. And we are still doing that in America. Everything that's entertainment to them is black people.
Mm.
And we do it on a high level. We are the greatest entertainers in the world, whether
Mm.
it be through our art, whether it be through our politics, whether it be through our sports, whether it be through any form of fashion or art. We are the entertainment and the rhythm of American society.
Mm.
They have no entertainment department without black people. They have no music without black people. They have no rhythm. They have no beauty without black people. And that's in any European nation. We give that to them. Now, what we need to do is take that back from them and let them know that we are the possessors of this and we own this so they don't vulture off of our culture. Because that's what they're doing. They're vulturing off of our culture because they don't have it. And this is what pains me all the time is that we don't recognize that we are the oil in this engine that we call America. We are the gasoline that they burn up in order to move and to thrive and to flow. And if we were to literally just stop holding up the pillar of America, it will fall and collapse within a day because we hold it up. We're the ones who built it and engineered it for them. They built it off of our backs. All we got to do is stand up, as the African proverb says. All we have to do, Brother Ray, is stand up and this whole thing will collapse. But how do you do that if you do not emotionally connect to who you are
Right.
and what you can do? And
Right.
see, if we really want to get serious and dogmatic about this, that's the science of pimping.
Come on.
The science of the pimp is to keep the prostitute emotionally disconnected
Connected.
from herself. And this is why some of the prettiest women in the world can allow a fat, ugly Negro with a perm
Mm.
talk in a derogatory way towards them and take all of their money is because they control their emotional network. And they know how to press certain buttons in order to get certain responses out of the person who's emotionally disabled and paralyzed. And that's us. That's what Iceberg Slim was talking about. When he left pimping, he saw himself in the prostitute. He says, this is black people. This is the story of black people. We've allowed white people to pimp us and take from us everything. And we have to feel more secured about ourselves and get past this emotional insecurity that we have as a people so we can get our righteous mind back. And that's what it's about. And I have to let you know, because the beauty of emotions is that, again, you can strategically utilize them. We don't want to say the manipulate because that's more of a negative, but we can modify our emotional settings in a way that allows us to be the person we need to be in the moment that we need to be that person.
Well,
Maybe you got to go to the restroom and charge up. You got to get in front of a mirror and you got to smile for 30 seconds. You got to jump up and down and you got to chant and you got to say positive affirmations so you can feel a certain way to get in that mindset you need to be, as you were saying, RJ, in order to do what you got to do, so you don't feel bad anymore. Amen.
Right.
It's deeper than taking a damn pill to change the chemical imbalance in your brain.
Come
You
on.
can do that on your own with just moving your body a certain way. And this is why Malcolm X was talking about. He changed his diet. He changed the way he wore his hair. He changed the way he talked. He says every time he talked, he made it a priority to talk in such a manner of excellence so that it can stimulate his brain cells. He talked about this. The brother was advanced on a whole nother level. He said, every time I got bored and I felt like I wanted to go back to being Detroit Red, I would pick up an encyclopedia and I would punish myself and I would make myself sit there hours. That's what he talked about. He said, I will make myself sit there hours so I can let Detroit Red know you'll never get possession.
You ain't coming back. Let me pause there because excuse me, that is another mechanism. And crack is not, and we'll deal with that mindset. That slave mindset functions like crack cocaine. Crack cocaine is not a physically addicting drug. It's a psychologically addicting drug. So you don't ever go through physical withdrawals when you weaning off. You can be off crack cocaine for months until that taste comes. That crackhead and you come back. And you can make a choice at that time to give into it or the not. So that's psychological conditioning. He said Detroit Red, the conditioned self, that part of me that was ingrained, that was oppressed or operantly conditioned in my mindset according to my lifestyle, creeps back when I
Yeah.
least expect it.
Yeah. And he
The
would
demons
chasten
come back
himself.
7 times 7
That's
when I'm
right.
at my weakest. And at that moment, no, I'm about to punish man. I'm not just punishing me, I'm punishing the Detroit Red.
And a better word besides punish is chasteneth. I like that word better, chasteneth, because again, when you look at the etymology of the word chasteneth, it means to go inside
Mm,
because something is internally wrong. And so you want to go inside because you know your external, your presentation is a reflection of your internal self. And so the Lord, that's what David said, the Lord chasteneth me. In other words, thoughts that I don't need out of me, he's replacing them with thoughts that I do need in me, and that's the chastening process. And so I'm not tormented by thoughts that I don't need. I don't yield to those thoughts. I don't submit to those thoughts. And really, that's the whole sacredness and the mystical secrets behind the temptations of Jesus. Ain't no damn real devil come to him. Jesus is dealing with the devil in him. He's dealing with the beast in him. Ain't no damn, we think there's some kind of wizard, entity that possessed Christ and took him out into the wilderness. No, the scripture says the spirit led him into the
come
wilderness,
on.
not the devil. The spirit, that's his God conscious, led him into the wilderness, and his devil showed up. Why? Because it's in him.
It's
And
in
it
him.
went to war.
Come
The
on.
spirit went to war with the devil. In other words, the God went to war with the beast,
Mm,
and he made his beast bow down.
come on.
Jesus says, no, no, the beast needs to eat. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna go without eating for 40 days and 40 nights, so this beast can know it does not control my God. My God is in rule of me.
Come
The
on.
beast, when it gets emotionally distraught, the beast is suicidal because that's what the devil asked him to do. He said,
Right.
throw yourself
Go
off of
go
this
just
cliff.
throw
And
yourself.
yeah, and the angels will catch you. The gods, no, I am the angels.
Come
I
on.
don't tempt myself. How am gonna tempt me? I am God. I don't need nobody to tell me I'm God. That's the process of chastening yourself. And unfortunately, we think that we shouldn't do that to ourselves because we look at it as punishment, but it's really not punishment, it's conditioning. It's the science of getting under iron and pumping it 15 reps until it burns and you're aching and you're uncomfortable. But you understand there is a reaction to that action, and that's for you to go stronger, get bigger, and look better. And we understand you cannot do that without conditioning. And so, what Malcolm did in order to get to that new level of consciousness is he conditioned his emotional state. And you said it earlier, Ajay, we gotta feel like it.
Come
We
on.
gotta feel like it.
Come
We
on.
gotta feel it. It's a feeling. That's what Isaac said to Esau. Isaac said to Jacob, he says, you feel just like
Like my
Esau.
there you go. There you go.
That's the secret in the story. Jacob was not Esau, but he made himself feel like Esau so he can get the blessing. And if you don't feel like your best self, if you're not your best self, make yourself feel like your best self. And that
That's it.
means it got to come from you. You got to be able to say, I am the best IJ that I can be.
I can
I
be.
am the best Ray that I can be. And you'll see that your emotional network that's connected to the cosmos will touch down, and all of a sudden, you're feeling better. You see what I'm saying? You looking better. I'll give you the story and I'll stop. When I was looking for my wife, I understood I had to feel a certain way.
Mm.
And when I saw Ngozi, that's my wife. When I saw Ngozi for the first time, believe it or not, I said, "Oh, I'm about to get this. I'm about to get this sister. I'm
Right.
about to make sure I leave with her." I went to the restroom and I got in front of the mirror and I said, "Boy, you looking sexy. You looking good. You smelling good. You got money. Oh, you understand it? You got a career. You got everything you need to let her know you the man she needs to be with." And when I
Mm.
stepped back out there, I put it down. I said, "Hey, baby, you want to go to IHOP? Go get us some to eat, But in other words, what I'm trying to say is I had to make myself feel good, in order to be good, and that's so important because that's what Brother Malcolm
Right.
discovered. It was in his feeling. It was all in his feeling.
That's and well, brother Ray, you wanted to.
Say again, brother.
No, I was making sure I was going. We can talk. So I didn't want to. I wanted to make sure that.
Brother Pelagie said he's exactly right, man. And just listening to him and comparing him to Malcolm, got to realize some of our greats, man, they do things to put them. It's almost like putting yourself in character mode. So a lot of things Malcolm had to do, he had to withdraw himself from a lot of people, and sometimes that can be a lonely feeling.
Mm,
So you got to withdraw just to get yourself in that frame of mind. And that
mm.
goes back to the motion part that we're talking about, man. You got to pump yourself up. You sometimes got to close yourself off just to get focused, man. And sometimes it can be a lonely feeling because you don't get to enjoy the spoilage that everybody get to do sometimes because you're on a mission. And Malcolm was on a mission. So he didn't really get the chance to enjoy his life because he knew what his calling was. And once you know your purpose, know your calling, man, it's bittersweet. It
N-
can be bittersweet.
Now let's talk. Let's talk about that power of group, though. You know what I'm saying? Because I know in the what Pan African Orthodox Christian Church, Shrines of the Black Madonna, we say the group is our salvation. The group, because when you align yourself, and this is just so happens, and I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna put the spiritual calendar on the table. We're in the middle of the Pentecost season. We're in that experience where individuals who followed the revolutionary black Messiah Jesus said, look, we need to tap into the God that's in us. And so Jesus put together that group. I need you to work two on two to manifest each other. You need to be a mirror image of who you are in God to each other, to always encourage each other to reach that point. Now, because in the story of the Black Messiah, he had to go and get baptized, and the brother was like, "Yo, wait." John was like, "No, it can't be me." He said, "It has to be." Why? Because of the relationship we share, of who you do and what you represent. We got to connect because I'm on this journey of realizing self. And so how important is that group process? Because without the group, there would have been no Malcolm the minister. There would have been no without the Nation of Islam creating that experience where black people can see the God in everybody around them. There wouldn't have been that opportunity. You know what I mean?
That's
And
right.
so that
That's right.
group dynamics is important. And as in our community, that's highly high. That's the base of everything. Group life is the base of everything because I'm going to reflect the greatest part of who you are, brother. Right? I'm gonna reflect the greatest part of who you are, Colonji. And I hope that like you said, Malcolm said he wanted to make that every time he spoke, it drew everyone that listened to not only to himself to that greater self of who they are within. That was a art of his. And so this is that same scenario. The African speaks. It means that there's something deeper in you that has a voice, and we want that voice to come out. And we want everyone in the world to see that voice in you. So we invite you, brother Ray, because we want the world to see the experience of your self awareness through your trip and that power that it leaves inside you to get there. And so with that community, how important was experiencing the people who ran to come see you, experiencing the said they said, look, we want to take you over here, we want to show you the chief, and how we named it, the experience of that group who said, the brother who came and connect you, that's 201, because he was in front of you speaking life, saying, I need to give you some of the solutions in which we need, because I believe some of the answers that we need are in you. That's that group dynamics, that group experience. And so can you speak toward how the power of the group charges who we are as co-creators in the creator? Anybody can speak to the power of
Let
the
me tell
group
you.
experience.
Let me tell you that's very important. I didn't realize how important it was, man, until I was in that room, president's head of the state building, and seeing all the Americans that was over there getting their citizenship. And it was, I'm gonna say, probably about 40 of us at the most. And to hear the speech from the president and to realize how many African Americans have been over there, not that many. The brother that took me over there, Brother Fode, much respect to him, out of Indiana. When he first went over there in 2012, I want to say, he said he was the first African American in over 150 years to ever come back and visit. At that time, I think Brother Fode probably was about 25, 26 years old. And he told them, here on out, I would do what I can do to get as many African Americans over here that came from this nation. And the brother has been doing it since 2012. So to get there, man, and to see that I'm one of the very few people that have been back to Salone, and to see how that just comes together, man, just with the group in itself, is very rewarding, man. At
Mm,
the same time, it's very sad because it lets us know that we're not moving fast enough as a people.
mm,
Um, and to see that what we can do together once we come together, man, because with us going over there, the little time that we was over there, man, we was able to make a difference, make an impact. I met with so many people over there in regards to just trying to get some stabilization and get things in place that I'm only one person. There's only so much I can do, but I see how important it is as a group. So I'm also part of two other organizations, the House of Ancestry. I'm part of the Timnia Bar Nation. And the House of Ancestry, um, much respect to the Paramount Chief, dedicated more than 10,000 acres of land to the House of Ancestry for us to start developing, as well as the Timbia Bar Nation. He gave us, we asked for 10, but they gave us 20 acres of land.
mm,
And what we're doing with that land, we're now turning into a tourist spot because it's across the water from Bunce Islands. And Bunce Island was another historical part in regards to just bringing our people here to America. They had a contract that they was bringing people from Bunce Island to South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So now that we got that land, we already brushed it down and we're putting resorts on it. So when our people go over there or our kids go over there, they will have a place to stay. And that goes back to nation building and goes back to just group economics. And with all of us being over there, man, you would think, we'd be getting into it, but it was like, we was brothers and sisters, man. There wasn't no issues. We all, matter of fact, we had such a good time that they're trying to plan another trip right now in America,
mm.
as well as we do got people here in America that has a compound from that tribe. So it's very important, man. We have to work together as a group, man. But you gotta be the best person that you can be within yourself. So when you come to that group, you can provide a lot of things. Now you don't even have to provide a lot of things. A little bit that you can provide goes a long ways. A long ways. Um, and the sky's the limit, man. I mean, I used to ask people all the time, what is it that I can do monetary wise or business wise in Africa? And I always got the general answer, anything. You can do everything. I didn't understand that until I went over there. Now I
Mm.
understand it's any and everything you can do over there. Is there challenges?
Wow.
Yes. But let me tell you some of the benefits of Salone. Brothers, I don't know if y'all fish eaters, but I ate red snapper twice a day. Twice a day for $5.
What?
Now
Wow.
you can get no red snapper in
Where you
America
get
no
what?
less than probably
Mhm.
$15.
Man, I'm already
Yeah, I'm about to
salivating,
say
brother.
about $20.
$5 a
But
day,
$20
red snapper twice for $5. I'm
with
ready to
two
go
sides.
eat. Man,
With two
man.
sides.
Ain't that something?
Mangoes. Buying mangoes five for $1.
Mm,
As you know, mangoes, you may get mangoes probably 79 cents, if 79 cents, that's pushing it. Most likely probably over $1. Oranges with seeds in it, real oranges,
Mm-hmm.
5 for $1. And we talking about peace. They got some of the most beautiful beaches over there, man. Oh my
Mm.
God, some of the most beautiful beaches. And just to lay your foot on that sand and go in that water is just it's so peaceful. My girl did not want to come back. I had to come back because I had things to take care of and I was on a mission, but she did not want to come back. And she also suffered from lupus. When she was over there, she didn't have no pain with a lupus. If so, it
Really?
was bare minimum. The
Really?
migraines that she had before she left, because we spent thousands of dollars trying to figure out what's wrong with these migraines
Right.
that came from the middle of nowhere, she didn't have it when she went over there. And everybody that was over there, man, it was peace.
Mm.
I ran into a woman that left 2019 out of Columbus, Ohio. She'll be on the Real Man Talk Show. Her and her husband created a hotel over there called the Stafford Lodge. We ran into her
Wow.
by accident, as I would say, divine intervention, because she wasn't nowhere on our radar. But we ended up going to her hotel, black-owned hotel
Mm.
in Africa by an African-American woman and her Timney African husband.
Mm.
Hotel was nice, right there in Freetown.
Mm.
And she was so happy that we was one of the first African-Americans that lived there at the hotel.
Wow.
Now, it was a Russian there. He was a Russian there. Chinese come there. But as far as African-Americans, we was one of the very first to come there and live there. And she's just been so happy. She said she would never move back to America. She comes back and forth, but just the peace. And I remember my African friend told me, he said, Hightower, when you get over there, you go actually experience what freedom is like.
Mm. Just the
I didn't know what the hell
experience
he was talking about.
until you got
Experience.
there.
I know exactly what he's talking about. You ain't worrying about no police.
Mm.
You ain't worrying about getting pulled over.
Mm.
You ain't worrying about your next meal.
Mm.
Uh, and as American, you're not really worrying about money because our money goes a long ways over there.
Mm.
And health issues, only disadvantages, they don't really have a hospital.
Right.
But at the same time, they don't really have a lot of major issues. They got minor issues only because they don't have proper, I ain't gonna say proper nutrition. It's just a lot of things goes back to education,
The
brother.
education, just yeah.
Education.
Brother Colonji, I know you pressed for time, brother. When you got that the household stuff to take care of. Before you go, can you expound on the power of the group in this process of awareness of emotions and connecting and identity? Can you expound on the the need for group?
Yeah, most definitely. When we were in Africa, pre-colonial Africa, we were a group, but the process of again colonization and imperialism and making us into slaves is to keep us divided. So we just can't divide the individual in his own reality, his mind, body, and spirit. We also got to dichotomize the whole entire group or the whole entire village or the nation, because that's what we always reflect. As we reflect the anatomical structure of our existence, we're mind, body, and spirit collectively. And so if you're going to break that down individually, you're going to have to dichotomize the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so it's the same for the entire collective group of people. You got to separate them from each other because there's power in the group, but there is not power in us being divided. There is no power when we are divided. As the old adage says, there is power in numbers. We understand what you can get done when there is more than you, but the power of the group is about the reinforcement of your emotions. A lot of times, you can make yourself feel a certain way to where you are enough. All you need is you to believe in you. But what happens when you've made so many promises to yourself that you don't keep them, and you break your own promises, you break your own disciplines, and you don't stick with your word, is that you lose faith in yourself. And so the group is reinforcement, because when you have more than just you telling you that you can do it, are you
Well,
understanding? When mommy is telling you can do it and daddy is telling you can do it, that is a group. And all of a sudden you're emotionally stimulated and the confidence gives you the ability to perform. And so that's the power in the group. The group represents the reinforcement of yourself, because you hear you telling you that you can do it in somebody else. And I saw this with my own eyes as a child. My mom was a recovering narcotics addict. So I would go to the NA meetings with her when I was a kid, and I would see the power of the group at the NA meetings when you would see addicts who were suffering from their addiction, and they
Right.
they were on the fence. Do I want to be clean today, or do I want to relapse? Do I want to give up three months of cleanness and go back to smoking crack and living on the streets? Or how do I continue to go through this because I'm struggling? My everyday experiences are negative, and the only thing that brings me some sense of chemical satisfaction or gratification is drug abuse. But the group, if you would make it to an NA meeting or AA meeting, the group would reinforce how important it is for you to continue your journey at being clean. And they'll let you know that you can do it. And it was so amazing to see that as a kid, because they would have chants, they would have these circles that they would get in order to emotionally stimulate themselves so that they can stay clean on their journey of recovery. And that's sacred. That goes back to ancient Africa understanding. If we're going to survive, we have to survive as a group. I mean, we're out here in the jungle. The first people who lived, they lived in a very hostile environment. I mean, everything is about surviving, and you can survive better if you have somebody who supports you. And when you don't have a support system, and you have a caste system, you're going to suffer. And so, I mean, the power of the group is really about who you are, mind, body, and spirit. It's in and out. And so, when you have the group behind you, you can make miraculous things happen in your life. But we got to be a group. When we come together, we got to function as a
Come
group.
on.
Sometimes when we come together, we're not functioning as a group. We're functioning as a hierarchical society, and that makes us feud against each other, and that puts us into competition with each other. And then all of a sudden, we're not there to really validate each other. We're there trying to invalidate each other,
Right.
so we can feel as if we're better. It's that tent monkey syndrome. It's that crab in the barrel syndrome. We're starting to pull each other down and lifting each other up. So somebody who's at the top can give somebody who's at the bottom a hand, and we can all come out of the pit.
That's the issue of hierarchy in group institutions or institutions, and when no institution or group or organization is met, that's a whole conversation within itself. Because you may have a right group, but if the structure of that group does not help each individual access their best self and utilize it, then you have a problem with that within that institutions. And so that's a whole different conversation, brother. I told you before, we can have that one. But
Yeah.
like you said, I know you said you got to run, and so I want to thank both of y'all for coming on tonight. I truly appreciate, you know what I mean, my co-host, my rod dog, one, you know what I'm saying? We go hard all the time. You know
Right,
what I'm
right,
saying? And
right,
we
right,
can do it for
right.
5 hours.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my brother, thank you for sharing your experience with the trip, the family, the thoughts, everything. You know what I mean? When you helping us with swag. All the way back then. Continue coming forward, presenting your best self, man, and I believe that we are developing the platforms to change the world. Now, I'm gonna give a close on one of the things, and then y'all can stay if y'all want to. Y'all can go, but I was sitting there, and as a close to this, we're gonna talk about what you said in the sermon about being born again, and this is something that Kalonji put together. So if y'all gotta go, that's okay. One love. I'm gonna need a few minutes to close out to just give a final word, and if you want to talk later, brother, that's good. But you'll stay on. But I'm gonna give a quick shout out. One of the things, group, that wait, let me get this right. Where's that? There we go. One of the things that we've been talking about, well, the thing that we've been talking about is the power of emotions. And then we talked about the chronological path that Malcolm X took to access his best self. And we had several phases of Malcolm till you got to the Malcolm who created institutions on his own when he didn't even have an institution, when he got put out of the Nation of Islam. It was still something that was burning in him to say, I have to participate in the liberation of black people. It is who I am. It's who I'm called to be. It is what I'm supposed to do. So even if I don't have a group, I'm going to create a group for that purpose. Because I can't stop speaking truth because of the power, the creator. That's the only power I acknowledge. Because of the power that I'm governed by. So I'm always going to speak truth because of power. Because power feeds truth to you. Speaking truth to power, when they say that, that means you giving too much strength to your oppressor. But those 5 levels that he had to go through was like what the Black Messiah said. You got to be born again. Kalonji in the sermon spoke about a baby. Sunday he spoke about when you are entering into this realm of the physical. You are an infant. You don't know, you don't have the wisdom within you. You have that spiritual wisdom, but you're an infant being that can't access that wisdom or utilize it at that time. Your journey is to continue to keeping in touch with it, so as you mature in life, you're able to use it, right? So now, as an infant, the only thing you have to communicate what's going on around you is your feelings. You know how you feel when you're happy. You know how you feel when you don't like something, when you're sad. You know how you feel when you're hungry. You know how you feel when you're uncomfortable. It's feelings. A child is pure feeling. And when you have pure feeling, pure connection, pure emotion to who God called you to be, you almost instantly respond. As an infant, you instantly respond. There's no pause. So when there's something that you don't like, you rise up against it. You cry out against it. You wiggle, you fight against it. That's what's being born again means. Tapping into that feeling that connects you to the Creator. Being born again. Where the social constructs of an oppressive society no longer traps you in your acceptance of black inferiority, but you're free to battle against their declaration of black inferiority. That's a whole different. And as you can move past even arguing about their declaration by building a world from your sense of superiority, your sense of self-worth, your sense that we deserve on this planet what everyone else has. The right to a good life, food, clothes, and shelter, controlling all dynamics of our lives. Period. The pursuit of happiness as it is defined by the history of our people, traditions and heritage of who we are, not who they have declared us to be. Tap into the emotion of what it feels like to know who you are. That awareness of you. It's powerful. The power of emotion. I hope you guys got it. I hope you guys feel it. I hope you get to express your true emotion. The angriest person in the world is the most programmatic black person, focusing on every step of the way of building a better world, not only for black people to enjoy, but for everybody else. We have to be example. Let the African in you speak. One love.